Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to our /MaliciousCompliance, where people on purpose follow exact orders to spite someone. And in today's episode, we've got fast food Karens causing trouble, guys. Tantrums are being thrown, arrests are being made, and one OP tells a story about a racist idiot getting taught a lesson he'll never forget. It's a wild one today, so sit back, relax, and seriously, try not to shake your heads too hard at some of these people. Let's dive in. So I work at a local pizza restaurant, and I work the oven, which is basically cooking the pizzas, cutting them up, and dressing them however the customer wants, and then serving them. We also serve a few desserts, and if a customer wants them heated up, we place them on the lip of the oven for a few minutes in a paper bag. There are desserts in display cases next to the register, so the customer can see what we have. We have the desserts already bagged and ready to go under the register. When a pizza's done, we call your name, so there isn't anyone standing there waiting for their pizzas. They sit down and wait for their name to be called. This day, however, there was a woman leaning on my station, just staring at me as I was serving the pizzas. So I asked her if she was waiting for something. That's when she says, "I just ordered a cookie, but I saw that girl take one from under the register instead of the case. I want a fresh one from the case." This is when I explained to her that the ones underneath are indeed fresh. We just pre-wrap them so we don't have to do it one by one when there's long lines. She still insisted that she get one from the case. I told her they're from the same batch, if not older in the case, which is true. The display cookies often sit in the case for a few days, while the wrapped ones under the register get sold every day and they're replaced. After going back and forth with her while working the oven, she wouldn't stop asking for a fresh cookie from the case. And she even threatened to call my manager as I'm not obeying her. So with that, cue malicious compliance. I went and I got the hardest, oldest looking cookie from the case and I put it by the oven to heat up. But the woman was impatient and she wanted it right then. I just handed her a rock hard cold cookie and she walked away. And I guarantee it tasted like crap, but thankfully her pride stopped her from complaining. Listen, the only thing stronger than a Karen's urge to complain has got to be the fact that their ego's too big to admit when they're wrong. But seriously, why do customers think they know better than the people who actually work there? And this person shares a similar story. They say, "So I work at Subway, and today I greeted a customer and I asked him what he wanted to order, yada yada. I was being nice during the whole process, but for some unknown reason, the customer decides to go all passive-aggressive on me, asking me while I'm cutting his bread if this Subway is a franchise or corporate. I told him it belongs to a small franchise, to which he replies, "Oh, I see. I'd rather go to corporate Subways because they don't go cheap on the servings and portions. They actually make my sandwich exactly the way it looks right there in the picture." The guy was being so smug about this, so I replied, "Oh, really? That's nice. As in, I don't care." He then continued and he said, "It is. And as a lawyer, I know that I'm entitled to the sandwich in the picture, since that's what I'm paying for." And seriously, his subtle implying started to piss me off. So I just brushed it off and I say, "Well, you're certainly paying for the sandwich in the picture. The fact that it looks exactly like the picture depends on what vegetables you put on it though." And the thing about vegetable portions in Subway is that what corporate asks you to put on a sandwich is just enough, even if you decide to put one vegetable on it. For example, pickles, you can only put 3. Olives are 3. Onions, about 3. Tomatoes, 2 or 3. However, 95% of customers complain about these portions, so the franchise owner allows us to put at least double of everything. Even more if the customer wants to. For example, if you only like pickles on your sandwich, instead of putting 3 like most Subways do, we can put 6 to 8 pickles on a 6-inch, since it's the only vegetable in your sandwich. Or, if you like tomatoes, we'll gladly put 8 on a footlong instead of 4 or 6. The guy clearly didn't know how we did stuff in our franchise. so I decide to make it just like corporate would want me to make it. No extra anything, and the least amount of each vegetable. Funny enough, it did end up looking like the sandwich in the picture he pointed to. A sad looking turkey breast sandwich with barely any vegetables he asked me to put in it. The bottom line is it's never a good idea to threaten people who make your food by saying you're a lawyer. You may just get what you ask for, even if that's not a good thing. This story happened well over 10 years ago, when I worked at a place that we'll call Green Apron Coffee. The store where I worked was a drive-thru store, so this day, I was working the drive-thru bar making drinks. That's when a minivan pulls up to the box, and even before we got to greet her, she screams, "I need an extra hot chai latte. Anytime I order it extra hot, you never make it hot enough, and that's all." The woman then pulls away from the box immediately. And yes, I do distinctly remember her saying extra 7 times. Now, I want to note that the standard when I worked there was that extra hot means 155 Fahrenheit. The standard temperature there is 140 Fahrenheit, although a chai latte has water added, which is 200 Fahrenheit, so it's already slightly hotter than standard when you order it without any modifications. If you want a drink hotter, just say the temperature, but keep in mind milk burns around 190 Fahrenheit when it's being steamed. Since I got to make her drink, I didn't have to deal with her directly. But me, being the vengeful young adult I was at the time, and wanting to teach her a lesson about being polite to those in food service, I steamed her milk to 195 Fahrenheit. Because seriously, how hot is 7 extras exactly? Now, if you don't know, adding that much steam to milk makes it quite watery with some coagulated proteins on top. The steamer also gets quite loud, allowing it to run that hot of a temperature. I scooped off the burnt portion of her milk. I assemble her cup with the chai concentrate and then hot water, and then pour the milk to the top of her cup. I warned my coworker which cup was the hot one. When the customer pulls up to the window, I watch silently in glee as she pulls out the stopper of her cup, and she immediately tries to chug her 7 times extra hot drink. The woman's eyes widened as she realized how hot it was. I just watched as she spat out everything that was in her mouth into her car. She then put the stopper back in her drink, and still with chai on her face, she turns to us and she said, "Thank you so much," and then drove off. I could tell that she wanted to complain, but she also got exactly what she ordered. I work in a burger joint, and it's really popular due to our vast range of vegan/vegetarian burgers and the ability to customize everything, which does suck a lot. We get all sorts of ignorant wannabe vegans, and I want it gluten-free, but also a big pack of chili cheese types of people. But this one Karen truly takes the cake. So it's a late night, and we're only about 5 people working in total. There isn't many customers, so it's not too bad. I'm handling the kitchen solo, and we got our rookie handling registers. He makes a few errors here and there, but he's handling himself pretty good. That is, until Karen arrives. Now, I don't hear the order, but after a minute or so, her order comes up on my screen. It's 1 halloumi burger, which is no biggie. I make the burger, and he serves her quickly. Everything seemed fine until she returns. I don't have line of sight of the registers, but I can hear her screaming at this poor rookie. So I get over there quickly so he doesn't get left alone with angry Karen. I walk over there and I ask what seems to be the issue. Karen screams and says, "I ordered a vegan halloumi burger, but look right here, it has mayo on it." Now, if you don't know, halloumi is a type of cheese. So I reply, "I'm terribly sorry, he must have misheard you. But unfortunately, we can't make the halloumi burger vegan since halloumi is..." Karen cuts me off and she screams, "I don't care. I've had it before and I want a vegan halloumi burger. Just remove everything that isn't vegan, you idiots." Now, I don't take kindly to being treated this way, and usually I would have just thrown her out, but I saw an opportunity here. I reply, "Sure thing, ma'am, I'll make it right away." But what she obviously doesn't know is that 1. Halloumi isn't vegan, and 2. The bread we use for it is brioche bread, which contains butter. So I grabbed the paper wrap for the halloumi burger. I put some lettuce, onion, and tomatoes in there and then wrapped it up. I then put on my best fake smile and I gave her the obviously not burger-shaped burger. And I said, "Here you go, ma'am, 1 completely vegan halloumi burger." The look on Karen's face when she unwrapped that mess of assorted vegetables will give me joy for many, many years. And of course, she loses her mind. She starts screaming again, saying, "Is this an effing joke? What the F do you think you're doing? I want your manager now, you idiots." And like a summoned genie, my manager came over to see what the commotion was about. And Karen screams at him and says, "This idiot can't make an effing vegan halloumi burger." And he tries to give me this crap instead. I want my effing money back and I'm gonna report you all to corporate. The manager, as cool as a cucumber, tells Karen, "Well, lady, this seems to be correct. Because the last time I checked, halloumi was a cheese, and our bread contains butter. So would you like to change to one of our regular vegan burgers, or are we done here?" The woman just stared at him fuming. And I'm not joking when I say we could have used the heat from her to grill our meat on. She did a full 180, and she kept screaming on her way out. As soon as she was out the door, we collectively lost our lid, just laughing at that poor pile of lettuce, onions, and tomato. As far as I know, she hasn't come back, and we still haven't paid the price. Again, we all knew she didn't complain because she had no leg to stand on, right? Pretty sure OP won that encounter. And guys, I just love stories like this though, like people who don't know what foods fit their restrictions, cause a huge scene, and in the end, get embarrassed. I just love how the manager was like, you're complaining about the mayonnaise on this burger? Like, lady, your whole burger isn't vegan. Now, I will start off by saying that this has happened before. I work in a drive-thru, and this particular evening, a lady, loosely defined, orders some French fries. She came to the window and received her fries. She grabs the bag, only to return not even 30 seconds later to the drive-thru window, only to find the drive-thru order taker was taking an order. The woman was somehow appalled at this because she was trying to get her attention to let her know that her fries are over salty. Things escalated very quickly as she starts throwing French fries through the window, yelling, "Hello, bitch, hello." When she wasn't responded to fast enough, she starts taking the rest of her food and throwing it at us too. The manager Dave came to the window to see what was the matter. He then screams and says, "These fries are too effing salty. I want a refund right now." She was eating the fries, screaming at us, and between breaths, throwing them at us repeatedly. All I could do was stand there slack-jawed while this all happened. Dave said he wasn't giving her a refund. Now, if she was pissed before, she was livid now. She lost her ever-loving mind, demanding a refund on food that she threw all over the place. Seriously, it looked like Cookie Monster anytime he eats, food just flying everywhere. Gallagher would be impressed. She then screams, "I'm not leaving till the cops come." She then shuts her car off, and she sat there screaming at us, and the cops came alright. Dave already knew this situation. He knew that this always ends in a customer being trespassed at least, or leaving in handcuffs at most. So Dave not only welcomed the cops, but he encouraged it, almost begging her to call the cops. He even told her, "It's not gonna go the way you think it's gonna go." And this was an at-most day. The woman held up the line for 20 minutes, and we all got to watch as the cops hauled her off faster than a June bug on a hamster wheel. Or insert any other hillbilly saying that means super fast. And if you thought she was livid before, well, when she saw the cops coming, surprise, surprise, she became 10 degrees past whatever she was. Not only was she trespassed by Dave, but she still refused to leave without a refund on her food. But now that she was officially trespassed, she's now committing a crime by still being there. On top of that, she ends up throwing whatever food was left at the cops, which is assault of an officer. That's how she ended up leaving in handcuffs that day. Seriously, the fact that some people just choose a hill to die on and don't give in no matter what is wild, guys. Like going to jail over some over-salted French fries. Let's all agree it never needed to get to that point. And guys, I would make a joke about salt, but then I thought, nah, that would be too crass. And nah as in N-A, not N-A-H. You guys get it, right? I just went and picked up some food from a chain I worked at briefly years ago, which reminded me of this story. I did hate that job, but I still love their food. The day this happened, I was working drive-thru when a regular customer drives up. He was a catty and rude fellow who worked at the mall next door, so I had dealt with him enough to know that he was a jerk and to not even bother trying to give excellent customer service, because he was not a friendly person. The guy gave his order, which included a cup of water, which is no problem, sure thing. We prepare his food, bagged it, and then I start to pour his water. When he got to the window, he starts fussing at me immediately because he needs a bigger water than that. That stupid cup is tiny and useless, and I have to have a bigger cup. Now, let's talk about our cups for a moment. I assume you all know that a fountain soda machine is extremely inexpensive to run and is highly profitable. It costs about 4 to 7 cents to fill up a cup. Drinks cost money because the cup itself can cost more than the beverage itself. Our soda cups come in small, medium, and large. And then we had a free water cup, which did hold about 1 cup, about 230 milliliters. And it's a small cup, I won't lie, but it's free. And I get wanting to minimize food costs from a business perspective. So with that, I start explaining to him that the free water cups are this size. But this guy interrupts me before I can tell him that I can go ahead and give him water in one of the bigger cups, which I did do on a fairly regular basis. The guy starts yelling at me how stupid that is, and how he'll pay for a bigger cup. Cue malicious compliance time. But first, let's talk again about our cups. The small was big, medium was bigger, and the large was basically a swimming pool. Seriously, it's a giant cup. It also cost about $2.50. The guy didn't say what size he wanted, only that he would pay for a bigger cup. So I grabbed the large cup and I added the cost to his total. And I stare at him while the water just trickles out of the spigot into his cup. The machine had very low water pressure without carbonation, so it did take a while to fill up. It was nearly full when I made a mistake. And I swear, I didn't mean to do this, wink wink. But I accidentally got the cup too close to the spigot next to the waters, and a giant splash of dark-colored cola ends up in that very nearly full water. I just looked at him and I said, oops. I just pour out the whole cup and started over. The time dragged, and oh how he glared at me. I had to try so hard not to laugh or look smug, and it was awfully difficult. The guy was so rude and impatient, and if he hadn't been, I would have just given him the water in a bigger cup for free, and all that time wouldn't have been wasted, but whatever, the guy deserved it. So at my job, they offer fundraising cards, which have 20 coupons that give free items, and on the card, it says you can only use one at a time. However, the franchise owner does allow us to accept 2 coupons at once, based on he's a nice guy. That said, I had just gotten to work, and within 5 minutes, a lady drives up, and she steps out of a $100,000 Audi. The woman had ordered over the phone, and my coworker was new. So he told her to bring in the coupons and we would adjust the price, but he told her that she could only use 2 coupons at a time. The woman comes to the counter and she says she's here to pick up for, let's just say, Karen. I pull her food out of the hotbox oven, and then she hands me 3 fundraiser coupons. 1 for a free medium pizza when you purchase a large pizza, 1 for a free garlic bread, and lastly, 1 for a free cinnamon bread. I of course then explain that we can only take 2 at a time, and if she wanted it, she would have to pay full price, or I could remove it from her order. The woman immediately becomes defensive, blaming it on my 15-year-old coworker that took her order, saying he needs to be punished. I then again explain that I can just take the bread off, it would be no problem. She then starts examining the coupons, which are very little, and are tear-offs from the larger fundraiser card, which does explain the coupon policy, even more conservative than what I was willing to allow. She then starts to proclaim that because the individual tabs don't say the coupon policy, that it's ridiculous and I'm making this up. I ask her if she has the larger card, and obviously she says no. After seeing that I'm not gonna back down, she tells me to void the whole order. I oblige, with no sarcasm or rudeness. I never take any of these crazy people and their insults personal. I tell her, have a good day, and that's when she starts yelling that she didn't mean I should void the whole order, whatever that happens to mean. The woman starts insulting me, but by then, I explain she won't be getting any food from this location. She asked me if I'm the manager and that she wants my personal cell phone number to send to corporate. Wanting to be done with the situation and knowing that corporate's even more conservative, I write down my name and phone number and tell her have a good day. She refused to leave, and then she starts calling my cell phone, which was in my pocket. I have an Apple Watch, so I can see she's calling as my wrist is vibrating. After about 5 calls, I respectfully remind her that she asked for my phone number, and I show her my watch ringing with her cell phone number across the screen. She just gives me a sarcastic smile and she ignores what I say. Knowing that she's being a dumb idiot, I just go back to sweeping the front half of the restaurant. As she continues to call my cell phone, leaving me messages about how rude I'm being. I end up going to the bathroom and she somehow had gotten my coworker's attention, the 15-year-old, and she starts interrogating him on why on earth he would lie to her on the phone, and that we're the rudest people she's ever dealt with. I just come up to the front and I tell him stop answering her questions and she needs to leave. She then starts screaming at the top of her lungs, "You're lying and dishonest," yelling for me to shut up repeatedly when I tell her to leave. She just keeps repeating that I'm a liar and that she's gonna get me fired. I finally have to tell her that I'm going to call police if she doesn't leave. And that's when she screams, "Do it! Do it!" over and over again. By this time, 20 minutes have passed and the other customers are telling her to leave. She threatens my job again and she walks out. She drives to the other location that just so happens to have the owner working. She obviously lied to him and he calls me to see what happened. I can hear her in the background as I know her dumb voice. I just explain everything and that's when he turns to her and he says, "Actually, ma'am, I'm only going to be able to let you use 1 of those coupons per the fundraiser card. And I have one right here to show you the policy." Still on the phone at the time, I hear a loud shriek from her that sounds like someone's being devoured by the swamp monster, followed by the owner telling her to get the F out of his store. Yeah, I'm glad Karen got told off by the owner, but OP, why on earth would you give a raging customer your personal cell phone number? What a mistake that was. And guys, a lot of people are also commenting that OP should have called the cops and they were a little too nice to a raging Karen, who happened to be making customers feel unsafe and unwelcome. Let me know your thoughts on that. And this person's comment made me chuckle, guys. This person says, "I could swear that this was my mother-in-law, but she's probably never even seen a $100,000 Audi." This happened to me circa 2004, and here's a warning, this story is not funny. It's a malicious compliance of a different color, and it did change my life for the better, and it still gives me chills. I was working the McDonald's drive-thru, no speaker. There were 2 order windows and a 3rd pickup window. Charles is working window number 1. I'm working window 2. And a thing about Charles is he's black, ripped, tall, huge, and the guy has prison tats all down his arms. Just picture Terry Crews with darker skin and tattoos to the wrists. Charles is equal parts charming, soft-spoken, humble, and ambitious. He knew where he'd been, and he was determined to change his life. He's probably one of the best men I'll ever meet. Enter green minivan. We had both taken orders at the same time, and mine was long gone. Charles's order was taking forever. Probably about 4 minutes just taking the order before payment. I come over to check on Charles, and before I got close, I notice he's blocking the frame of the window, so I can't hear anything. It's an awkward position for him and blatantly obvious. He moves his hand out to me, out of sight of the van, and he gives me the stop sign, which means back off. I got it. Time passes, and the manager on duty comes to check on the issue. He waves her off as well. She protests, and I tell her, just wait and see. Something's deeply wrong. Suddenly, Charles points the van down to the other window, and he leaps into action. He slams the window and shoves past us without a word. He races to the 3rd window. Manager and I look at each other and check for other cars. None. And then follow at a distance. The manager had been running the order, but Charles took over, and he personally handled every part of the order with the speed of a madman and the quality of a 5-star restaurant. He grabs a new batch of fries, he has the cook triple check each burger, he breaks a cardinal rule of the store, and he shows the van all the kids' meal toys we have for personal preference. Drinks and condiments are then handed out, and Charles gives them a genuine smile and enthusiastically thanks them for being customers. He says, "Have a great night, we'll see you soon." Charles waits until they're out of sight before returning from the window visibly shaken. He walks back to his register. Manager starts to fuss about an explanation she's owed, but Charles says he can't just yet. His legendary Zen calm is severely damaged. After a few minutes to get a drink, wipe the sweat off his face, and compose himself, he opens up and tells us what happened. He tells us this van had rolled up. Charles greeted them with the usual "Welcome to McDonald's, what can I get you this evening?" with his award-winning smile on his face. The white father driving waits for Charles to finish, and with a loud sneer, he turns to his wife, and for all to hear, he says, "You order, honey. I don't talk to..." Insert the N-word. The wife turns to the 2 young kids, probably 8 and 10, impressionable, learning, watching. They had locked eyes on Charles, and that's when Charles decided that he had it within him to reach for something better. Father be damned, he's long gone. Charles decided that he had a message for those boys. The wife patiently and sheepishly took the excruciatingly and needlessly complicated order from the father, and then had to speak past him to Charles. Same for the kids. Light mustard, 3 pickles, etc. Perfectionism. Charles reached down inside himself for something that neither I nor the manager possessed, and he gave the wife a genuine smile as he whipped out the order. The father knew that Charles had been served a dish he thought impossible to serve, but it was served. And not only that, it was served with kindness and compassion and a compliance that defied everything he told them about those people. The kids both waved to Charles from the back of the van as the father pulled away. They liked their new friend. And for those that may be asking what makes this malicious compliance, I've had well over 2 decades to think through it all. Number 1, the stated intent was for Charles to be forced to serve them in a degrading and humiliating manner. The spirit of the order was goading and baiting Charles with an impossible task. The racist a-hole father wanted Charles to slam the window in his face. and simply doing his job was a slap in the face of the request, malicious compliance. And number 2, the a-hole father thought he was clever by making his statement, but what he'd also done was write a check that his wife was forced to cash. The a-hole father wouldn't dare sully himself by deigning to speak with one of them, but he had ordered his wife to do his dirty work. By taking the order, Charles was humiliating the father and allowing the a-hole father's demand to debase his own wife in front of him. By dragging the order out to make sure we get it right, he made the wife add insult to injury by repeating things from the father to her to Charles and then back again. And lastly, the a-hole father drove off with his tail so tucked it must have hurt. His wife had been dragged through the mud by his own demands, and some black guy had made friends of his own kids. Again, all in front of his own family because of his idea of being snarky or funny and racist. I wish I knew where Charles was or what happened to him. And as I've said, he's one of the best people I've ever met in my life. What an epic compliance that was, and honestly guys, that is some serious turn the other cheek right there. Like the fact that Charles responded in such a respectful manner in front of the kids and offered 5-star service and won them over that day. Kudos to him, and seriously, Dad truly was the a-hole that day. And I hope the kids realize it. I also think a part of Charles's plan was personally touching everything. Like, that would drive the father insane. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/malicious compliance. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy, crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/entitled People episode, where psycho Karen managers won't stop getting taught lessons. It's such a wild episode, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.